every story appears ordinary until you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
A very pleasant evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us on CoreTV Primetime News. I am Abosedi Umawi. Here are our top stories. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's now take you through the report we have for you at this time. A federal high court sitting in Abuja has adjourned till January the 29th to rule on a bail application filed by the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu. The trial judge, James Soho, fixed the date after defense and prosecution counsels argued differently on the application. And away from that, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has opened its case against the National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Olisa Metu, in the alleged money laundering charges involving the sum of 400 million naira. One of EFCC's witnesses, Nneka Ararume, narrated how she collected a total sum of $2 million cash from Metu at his house in Prince and Princess Estate, Abuja, for investment. The trial commenced before a federal high court in Abuja after the trial judge, Justice Okonabang, overruled defense counsel Onyechi Ikpeazu's submission for adjournment. Ikpeazu told the court that since Metu had been unable to meet his bail conditions granted on January the 16th, the defense had filed an application for variation of the terms. He asked the court to adjourn the proceedings as the inability of his client to meet the bail conditions had adverse effects on his preparation for the case against him. But prosecution counsel Silvanus Tahir opposed the application for adjournment, and his objection was upheld by the judge. In other news, Akwa Ibom State Governor Udom Emmanuel has been expressing his support for the ongoing anti-corruption crusade of President Muhammadu Buhari. The governor made this clear while briefing State House correspondent after a closed-door meeting with the president. Abiola Oluwole has more on the story.
As the anti-corruption war gathers momentum, Nigerians across board have continued to express divergent views about the intensity of the war. Perceived corrupt politicians are being prosecuted in different courts of law in the country. Emerging from a closed-door meeting with President Buhari, the Akwa Ibom State Governor declared his support for the administration's anti-graft war. He says Nigerians should assist the president in repositioning the country for better productivity by tackling the pervasive Hydra-aided problems it has found itself with.
It's not only when money exchanges hands that is corruption. Somebody trying to influence an unjust cause is corruption in one way or the other. So there are so many ramifications to it. But the first thing is, let's also search our mind, search our conscience. And we strongly support it. All the governors in Nigeria are waging the same war in their different domain and trying to set up structures, trying to actually see how we can minimize it. Because I know it's not possible to all through overnight eliminate it, but bring it to the barest minimum that is totally insignificant in the system, and I think that's where we're heading to.
The governor also says the anti-graft war is boosting business potentials in the country.
You know, no matter how you want to do in the developing nation like ours, there's no solid investor outside there in the whole world that will totally not look at Nigeria. If you look at what we have in terms of resources, That includes human, intellectual, and other material resources, and even the natural resources. It's not easy to ignore Nigeria. And even in developing nations like ours, look at our return on investment. Look at our return on equity compared to our cost of capital. You see that certainly there is no investor that will not still look into Nigeria to invest if he wants adequate return.
The
And
governor is visiting the president to acquaint him with happenings in his state. From the presidential villa in Abuja, Abdullah CoreTV News.
And now, with the ongoing war against corruption while the economy stinks, Nigerians have continued to evoke reactions, whether it is a right decision of the government to eradicate corruption or to concentrate on more matters concerning the nation. Senator Adiola Olamilekun has expressed his thoughts towards the war against corruption and has urged Nigerians, and most especially the media, that the fight against corruption will not only revive the economy of the land, but will make Nigeria a better place for all.
The step taken so far by the president is a step in the right direction. If the anti-corruption crusade will have any meaning or will be of any meaning to Nigerians, unless we take the bull by the horn and also stand our ground on those who have taken away our commonwealth, to return it back to us, and also to fight and ensure that the issue of corruption, which has been one of the bane of our problem and challenges in this country, is reduced to the barest minimum. So the step taken so far by the president is a step in the right direction, and we are all calling on him as leaders of Lagos West Senatorial District that he should continue to fight on, and we are solidly behind him.
He also says Nigerians should not be discouraged that the era of oil is gone, but they should be awake and see the breakdown of oil as another step to something greater and better.
It's no more about the oil. It's not about the real economy. And what we have been saying all this while is diversification of the economy. Now the economy needs to be diversified. The president has commenced and he has meant it, he's doing it, and we should all support the president so that the issue of the 6 trillion naira budget can be funded outside over reliance or dependence on oil alone. So this time around, the tax system needs to function, and whatever we borrow as budget augmentation needs to be judiciously applied if we need to have anything meaningful from this government. So we are calling on all Nigerians to rally around the president and all our leaders, work with them closely so that together we can take Nigeria to the next level.
In other news, the issue of the Nigerian Constitution Amendment is inarguably becoming one of the most raging discussions in the House of Representatives. The hypothesis of Constitution Amendment is seen as an unending jamboree, which is totally far from its originality. On our flagship program, Court Digest, legal practitioners have this to say.
The move by the National Assembly to amend the Constitution has been generating reactions from Nigerians, as the debate over Constitution amendment is being described by some legal practitioners as a jamboree that seems to be heading nowhere.
If we are saying that, it's necessary from time to time for us to amend Constitution, the question is that, why do we have to do that from time to time? Was it that we're not able to get it right from the very beginning? Was it that we're going to try an error? Was it a case of somebody, a charlatan being given a professional job to do, and then you find out that what he has been able to put together is not effective? I think we have to do some forensic study of that thing for us to say that, okay, it's necessary for us to continue to amend from time to time.
For this legal practitioner, tackling the lacuna embedded in the Constitution with the delay in administering justice has turned out to be another way for looters to get away with the nation's funds.
People who have no intention, people who have no idea, and people who want to benefit from the rot, from the gap, as we call it, lacuna, will take advantage, and that's what the politicians do, particularly members of the National Assembly. They've seen a cesspit, they've seen a route, like the Yorubas will say, if the wall does not break, there's no way the lizard will go in. This is an opportunity. Is it only in Nigeria that we have members of the National Assembly? Is it only in Nigeria that we have a constitution? But why is it that it is every year?
Callers on the program also have this to say.
This thing has been going on. This is what happened during Abacha regime, Obasanjo regime. They set all this rubbish conference and it's starting again. As the other gentleman said, before they start, he said they are going to fail. I see them as a failure.
You see, the people in National Assembly are the problem. They are the problems of this country. Because if we want to amend the constitution, if we say we don't need bicameral system of government, will they approve it? Of course we don't need it. But we know that every amendment we make must affect them because they are the problem.
You see, somebody will promise us that when you get there, you do such a thing, you do this thing, do this thing. But when you get that place, you start packing his own money. How a man who drive a car of 20 million?
As the bid to amend the constitution continues by the nation's lawmakers, it is the expectation of Nigerians that the laws in the country will be devoid of any flaws.
Now, President Muhammadu Buhari affirms that poverty, injustice and the lack of job opportunities were mainly responsible for intercommunal and intra-communal conflicts in Nigeria. Speaking while receiving a delegation from the Center for Humanitarian Dialogue, an organization active in the promotion of peace in Nigeria, President Buhari says to achieve an enduring peace in the country, greater effort must be made to eradicate poverty and injustice. The president described ethnic and religious conflict in parts of the country as outward manifestations of underlying problems of joblessness, injustice and poverty. On conflicts between farmers and herdsmen, President Buhari says that a plan to map out grazing areas will soon be presented to the Nigerian Governors Forum as a temporary solution to the frequent conflict until cattle owners are persuaded to adopt other means of rearing their cattle. The president commended the Center for Humanitarian Dialogue for the relative peace that had returned to Plateau State, as well as their ongoing activity in southern Kaduna. And now to River State, where the Nigerian Medical Association, the River State chapter, staged a protest against the alarming rate of kidnapping of medical doctors in the state. And this has affected the medical service delivery of doctors and other health practitioners in the state. The members of the association paid a visit to the Commissioner of Police to register their displeasure over the insecure state of medical doctors in River State. While addressing members of the association, the Commissioner of Police, Musa Kimo, maintained that the police is aware of the upsurge in kidnapping cases of medical doctors in the state. He adds that his officers are on top of the situation as several arrests have been made to those in connection with such crime and that they are currently in police custody. Musa Kimo reassured members of the association that the police will not relent in its role to protect lives and property of medical doctors, urging medical doctors and other health workers in the state to cooperate with police by providing vital information that the police would need.
And draw centrifugal forces together to be able to achieve a lot in our quest to have zero tolerance to crime in this milieu. And so what am I talking about? There is need for us to be more security conscious and report strange and suspicious movements to the police and other security agents have been arrested and prosecuted. Many have been fatally wounded.
In health matters, Akwa Ibom State government has convened an emergency meeting on how to curtail the spread of Lassa fever following reports that 3 persons had contracted the disease, with 1 already confirmed dead. Akwa Ibom has become the 18th state in the country to be affected by Lassa fever. The State Commissioner for Health, Dominic Ukpong, who broke the news at the meeting, says the victims were diagnosed with the virus at different locations in the state. He warned residents on the imminent health danger posed by Lassa fever in the state, urging the people to take precautionary measures against further spread of the disease. And our Taraba State government has set up a committee for the control of Lassa fever in the state. The committee, which constitutes 5 ministries in the state, is to work out measures to ensure proper prevention of Lassa fever in the state. The ministries include Ministry of Health, Ministry of Information, Education, Rural Development, Environment, and the Ministry of Agriculture. These ministries are expected to create awareness effectively to the public as concerned.
Including our home state, Taraba, and the Emergency National Council on Health took place in Abuja on the 19th of January 2016. And part of the resolution of the council was to form an interministerial committee at state level. And the committee started with the responsibility to control the spread of Lassa fever. And the committees comprises of Ministry of Health, Education, Information, Rural Development, and Agri. The Ministry of Health will start with the responsibility of controlling case management of patients that are affected with the disease. The Ministry of Environment will ensure clean environment, because it's only when you have filthy, slum environment or squalor that the rats will thrive and multiply and spread the disease. The Ministry of Education will use their schools to sensitize students and pupils on how to prevent themselves from getting the disease, while the Ministry of Agri will discharge the responsibility of control rodents, that is rats that serve as a vector for the transmission of the disease. If you recall, in terms of the prevalence of the disease, most of them occur in the rural areas in comparison to the urban center. So the Ministry of Rural Development will give a strategy on how to control the disease at the rural level. So in a nutshell, this is the terms of reference for the committee and what each ministry is expected to carry out. As for the disease, on the 30th of December 2015, we confirmed 5 cases and 4 died. So that gave us a case fatality of 80%. By case fatality, I mean the number of people that got infected with the disease compared to the number of people that died. So that is to say, the case fatality of 80% is high, 4 out of 5. And currently we are having 28 suspected cases. I'm saying suspected because we are yet to confirm a diagnosis. Because we have to send sample to Ira Special Hospital in Edo State or the Nigerian Center for Disease Control Lab in Abuja. But the good news is that following the resolution of the Council's National Council on Health meeting, Taraba State is now going to have ownership of a diagnostic lab that will be sited in the state capital here that can now readily diagnose cases for Lassa fever. We don't have to transport our samples either to Edo State or Abuja.
And now to Ekiti State, where in a bid to nip the spread of Lassa fever in the bud, the state ministries of health and information are taking sensitization to rural areas for proper awareness and precaution. This is coming as there is no new record of the disease, with earlier blood tests coming out negative. Rashid has more.
Lassa fever in Ekiti was first diagnosed in a student nurse who hails from Emure Ekiti, a semi-urban community. Alarmed by the possible danger lack of information may cause, community sensitization becomes imperative, with setting up of a local health team with feedback mechanisms.
We've isolated like 3 cases in Ekiti State University Teaching Hospital, and their results are confirmed negative as of today. We have 2 outstanding cases that we have sent the specimen to Irua, and in the next 24 hours we would have their results. Use the opportunity to introduce the health workers that will be used in contact tracing, in active case search to the community.
We're measuring feedbacks through the contact officers and the health educators in all the 16 local government areas.
While the sensitization lasted, the community dwellers learned preventive measures of the disease, with community leaders promising to step up the campaign.
We have to propagate this to every needs of our local government, of our towns, to ensure that our people they are in good health, to ensure that all the preventive measures that the government has highlighted in relation to this Lassa fever, that they carry it out.
I learned more is for the people to clean their environment, mostly the foods and the spoon, the kitchen things.
The sensitization is billed for the 16 local government areas of the state. Rashid, CoreTV News, Ise Ekiti.
Still ahead, the FCT Minister Mohammed Bello says completion of the multiple uncompleted projects in the city would form the priority of his administration. Details of this report and others right after this break.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service FIRS calls on all corporate organizations operating in Nigeria to register for the purpose of payment of taxes and obtain a tax identification number TIN. All registered companies must obtain a tax identification number immediately from the nearest FIRS office. You can also collect and return tax registration forms from the Federal Inland Revenue Service Engagement and Enlightenment Tax Teams, FEET, on compliance checks exercise in your area. A company which is yet to commence business after at least 6 months of incorporation must pay a pre-operational levy of 20,000 naira in the first year and 25,000 naira for subsequent years to obtain its tax clearance certificate TCC. Note that filing and payment of VAT and withholding tax returns must be done on or before the 21st day of every month. Register for VAT. File all tax returns as and at when due. Be a responsible corporate citizen of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Because I want to be a doctor and help people when they are sick. I want better education and training so I can be a soldier and protect my country. I want better roads to avoid accidents so I can get to school on time safely.
Thanks so much for being there. You're still watching CoreTV Prime Time News. Now, all our top stories and other information can be found on our social media platforms, facebook.com/CoreTV News. And on Twitter, it is at CoreTV News NG. Can get our videos on our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/CoreTV. Leave a space, the news. Now, again, a reminder of our top stories. Thanks so much for being there. Now to all the news. The FCT Minister Mohammed Bello says completion of the multiple uncompleted projects in the city would form the priority of his administration. Bello gave the hint at a policy trust media parley in Abuja. According to the minister, only new projects whose existence would complement existing ones would be initiated. Correspondent Helen Chikunwike covered the briefing. Away from that, quarry workers in Kaduna State have asked for the federal government support on modern technologies to boost their production, thereby contributing to the nation's economy. Speaking with CoreTV News correspondent, these quarry workers seek the government's financial support and emphasize the need for young people to get involved with the quarry business.
Quarry business in Nigeria is one of the sectors that has lacked government attention over time. In Kaduna State, although these workers are quite content with their business, they clamor for government intervention.
I'm calling government to assist us, especially now that we are facing problem. The work is very hard a little for us because the stone has gone down. So we need a lot of help, like money help, so that we can develop our work.
I'm appealing to the government to come assist us with modern machineries, so that because any part of the world, this doing work manually is now going over. It's not as a first. They are taking it as a first. But we need government to provide us with machineries. If to provide machineries, we can do better, and we can, even the government will get some taxes from it.
72-year-old Kabir Sulaiman, who hails from Funtua local government area of Katsina State, northwest Nigeria, says he has been in Kaduna for over 60 years. He talks on how lucrative the business has been.
I have benefited from it for many things, because anything that human being like, I got it through this house, pilgrimage, marriage, children, and some money. I get all this from this one.
He, however, enjoins young people to exploit the untapped resources in this mining business.
I am appealing to every youth, even not a youth, any single individual can come and participate in any work that will help him, because sitting idle is not good for anybody. It depends on people.
For a nation that wants to develop our economy, it must look inwards for areas where it has comparative advantage over other nations, and efforts should be geared towards the development of these areas.
The Nigerian Information Technology Development Agency is continuing its series of information technology training for people living with disabilities. Speaking at the opening of this year's edition, the Acting Director General of the agency says the training is part of government's job creation and diversification plan. There is indeed ability in every disability, as is being demonstrated here by these physically challenged persons who are attending an information technology training organized by the National Information Technology Development Agency for persons living with disabilities. With excitement, many of them take to the facilities available for the training, expressing their feelings about the program. The training is expected to provide empowerment and serve as an avenue for means of livelihood for many who had previously found it difficult to actualize some of their dreams.
There is indeed in every disability an ability, as is being demonstrated here by these physically challenged persons who are attending an information technology training organized by the Nigerian Information Technology Development Agency for persons living with disability. With excitement, many of them take to the facilities available for the training, expressing their feelings about the program.
I think it's a good thing that has happened to this community of the physically challenged. If government and different NGOs will put hands together to create more rooms or more avenues for these trainings, it will empower them positively to affect the society, because the physically challenged, they also have what I will call God-given gift.
The training is expected to provide empowerment and serve as an avenue for means of livelihood for many who had previously found it difficult to actualize some of their dreams.
Okay, I tend to use it in a way that, like, doing a website design, that I can help people to design websites. Schools around where I stay, I can just meet them, and then maybe going to other places, and then through there, like, let me say, the old school will be able to have what? Be able to have a website whereby somebody can look at what they have inside the school. Then through there, it can build up their own school and also better my own life.
Today, I will be very glad to be given a special computer that can talk, so that I can access the information just like every other person can access. I'm a civil servant. It will help me in my job very well. So with that, by that, I will be giving back to the society what I have learned here today.
By God's grace, if I learn this computer, I will open a shop that I can be doing printing business to make money.
Disability in Nigeria is fast becoming an acceptable condition as the society is beginning to integrate them gradually into this spheres. Some sad tales are still, however, being told by many of them.
There still is that perception of, those who are challenged in one way or the other, not, favored, or they don't have much they can offer. The society do not look at them as the the prime of the society as the reason for the season.
The need for diversification of the nation's economy cannot be complete without the persons living with disability as enumerated by the trading partners.
I will believe it's not only people that can move around, say, talk, and do whatever they want that we should focus on. There is need for people with disabilities. And globally, attention is being focused on it. In fact, in most of the developed countries, if you are constructing any building, you have to make provision for them. But in the offline here is different. But in our own little way, from the ICT sector, we feel people like you are important members of this society.
This is only the second in the series of annual trainings to be held. Some participants of the first edition are currently fully employed by some government agencies, as will some of these ones after this training. Jamila Fegwa, CoreTV News, Abuja.
Indeed, there is ability in disability, and when there is life, there is hope. Now to other stories. The Lagos State government has ordered immediate reopening of all street gates and barricades in the nook and cranny of the state between 5 a.m. and 12 midnight daily, warning that defaulting streets would have their gates pulled down within the next 7 days. The directive that all street gates and barricades are only permitted to be locked between 12 midnight and 5 a.m. is as a result of a series of complaints from residents on the disturbing trend of street gates and barricades. While addressing journalists at the State Secretariat in Alausa, the Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Community Development and Chairman of Community Affairs Advisory Council, Tajuddin Qadri, notes that there have been situations whereby firefighters and police officers were prevented from getting to emergency scenes on time due to street gates and barricades, as well as instances where rushing patients with emergency situations to hospital were equally frustrated. We take another break now, and when we return, we'll bring you a report from outside Nigeria and from the world of sports. Do join us again.
Are you aware that the death percentage attributed to Lassa fever cases is currently put at 43.2%, a figure considered very high? Lassa fever, an acute viral illness characterized by high fever, muscle aches, mouth ulcers and bleeding in the skin, is harbored by rats and spread to humans via the urine and droppings of rats. To prevent Lassa fever, avoid any exposure with rodents, rats, as well as food and objects contaminated with rat secretions and excretions. Report all suspected cases of Lassa fever immediately to the nearest healthcare institution. Help prevent Lassa fever. This message is from the federal government of Nigeria.
Chima, wetin you dey do so?
Sell market now.
Eh? Person wey dey buy the market, you no get receipt. Wetin you dey do?
Which receipt? No be pocket money dey go.
Eh? You dey pay tax?
Who be tax?
Guy, all these health centers wey dey run na tax o.
My brother, make I tell you, good road na tax, security na tax. Those school where your children dey go, how you think say dem dey take pay the teachers? Brother, na tax. And if you no pay your tax, my brother, dem go lock your shop.
Abeg Tunde, where did they pay the tax?
Na for tax office na.
Carry me go there.
Make we go. Abu, help us look shop abeg.
Welcome back. You're still watching CoreTV Primetime News, reaching you live from our studio here in Lagos, Nigeria. Now to reports from outside Nigeria. 3 suicide bombers have carried out a series of attacks at a market in northern Cameroon, killing at least 29 persons. A Cameroon military official disclosed that the coordinated strikes occurred in the village of Bodo near the border with Nigeria, adding that the first explosion struck the road leading to the market. The second and third blast hit the entrance and interior of the marketplace. This is the second bombing incident to hit Cameroon this year. No one has claimed responsibility for the latest attacks. Cameroon and neighboring countries have been carrying out offensives against the Boko Haram group, which declared allegiance to the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, ISIL, in 2015. The World Health Organization says the Zika virus linked to births of babies with smaller than usual brains in Brazil is likely to spread to all countries in the Americas except for Canada and Chile. The WHO Director General Margaret Chan discloses plans of the head of the organization to brief the board on its response to the outbreak. She says the complexity of humanitarian emergencies underscores the need for transformational changes in the organization's response capacity. Brazil's health ministry in November confirmed the mosquito-borne Zika virus was linked to a foetal deformation known as microcephaly, in which infants are born with smaller than usual brains. WHO advised pregnant women planning to travel to areas where Zika is circulating to consult a healthcare provider before traveling and on return. Now, United Nations Special Envoy for Syria, Staffan de Mistura, says peace talks on Syria will push for a nationwide ceasefire for all parties other than the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, ISIL, and al-Nusra Front armed groups. Addressing journalists in Geneva, de Mistura announced that the peace talks originally planned to start on Monday have been rescheduled for Friday and are expected to last 6 months. He said all parties would be involved in ceasefire effort other than the two groups designated as terrorists by the UN. The talks in Geneva will come after a set of meetings in Vienna and New York between the international community and regional players. And in other news, anti-government protesters have defied a security crackdown and took to the streets as Egypt marked the 5th anniversary of the 2011 uprising that toppled long-term ruler Hosni Mubarak. Egyptians demonstrated against the military-led government in Alexandria's Al-Qaeda Ibrahim Square, which was a major site of 2011 protests, as well as in Nasser City and Shobra district in the capital, Cairo. In a televised speech, Egypt's leader Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said his government is continuing the aspirations of the 2011 uprising in spite of the documented human rights violations under his rule, as well as a worsening economy. The speech came just one day after Sisi praised the country's police and vowed a firm response to any threat to the country's stability. And in sports, in sports, President Muhammadu Buhari will, at a later date, host Nigerian athletes who led the nation to victory in 2015. Media assistant to the Ministry of Sport, Solomon Delong Neka Anibeze, hint that the Nigerian athletes who won medals at the African Games and Youth Commonwealth Games may still get their chance for a handshake with the president. She, however, says she cannot confirm when and where the commendation will take place. The victorious athletes who are currently in Port Harcourt training for the Olympics feel snapped for being excluded from the Presidential Commendation of Sportsmen held on January the 21st. Top sprinter Ogene Eguero says the athletes are not aware of plans for the recognition and that a little bit of communication to them could have helped assuage their feelings and boost their confidence as they train. Away from that, the Super Eagles are battle-ready to face Guinea's Sili Nacional in a Group C encounter. The Eagles are determined to finish top spot and qualify for the quarterfinals of the 4th African Nations Championship. Toyin Ibitoye, the team's media officer, says all 23 players who made the trip are in excellent physical and mental shape ahead the crucial West African derby coach Sunday Olise promises another high-level display on Tuesday. Super Eagles informed striker Chisom Chikatara, who is on 4 goals, will pose the biggest threat to the Guineans. The Eagles lead the pack in Group C on 4 points, 2 points ahead of Guinea and Tunisia. The outcome of the group's matches will determine qualifiers for the last 8. In other news, the world number 2, Andy Murray, has made it to the quarterfinals of the Australian Open with a 6-4, 6-4, 7-6, that 7-4 win over Bernard Tomic. This makes it his 7th consecutive quarterfinal in Melbourne. Murray will now play 8th David Ferrer. And away from that, Nigerian 2014 tennis star player Aruna Kadri is heading to Berlin for the German Open after finishing among the top 8 players in the men's singles of the just concluded Hungarian Open. Kadri's excellent outing in his first International Table Tennis Federation IWTF World Tour in 2016 saw him hearten the home fans when he banded out the only surviving Hungarian, Daniel Kosiba, in the round of 16 tie of the competition. Starting his campaign from the main draw after being seeded number 6 among the 32 rated players for the tournament, Kadri was in fine form from the first round, bashing Brazil's Thiago Monteiro 11-7, 12-10, 11-4, 15-13, 4-0. He progressed by edging out the competition's number 24 seed, Zetis Thomas Konechny, 11-4, 11-5, 11-8, 8-11, 11-5 to make 4-1. Aruna Kadri will be heading to Berlin for the German Open, which serves off on January the 27th alongside compatriot Bode Abiodun, with whom he edged up number 5 seed Brazil's pair of Kazuo Matsumoto and Thiago Monteiro. And that's it on CoreTV Primetime News. But before we go, another look at our top stories. It's been so great having you join us on CoreTV Primetime News today. Join us in our subsequent bulletins for more reports. I am Abosedi Omowi. Have a very great evening.